Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Harmonize, 2Energize. My name is Terry Matthews. I work here at the Scottsdale International headquarters of Jin Shin Jyutsu. Welcome to all the new people coming here for the first time. Jin Shin Jyutsu is an art of harmonizing energy in the body, sometimes known as chi or ki. We harmonize it in Jin Shin Jyutsu by placing our hands on what we call safety energy locks on the body. These energy locks allow the movement of energy up the back, down the front of the body, and it moves through what we know as organ function energy pathways, and acupuncturists would call meridians. So, without further ado, it is my great pleasure to welcome today's mystery presenter. And today's mystery presenter is
Oh, come on. Where's my little video window? There I
am. Mia Hutchinson, welcome. Hutchinson, Victoria, British Columbia, in Canada. Welcome.
Hi. Yes, I'm Mia from Victoria, BC, and I have been organizing classes here since 2012, and we've had quite a few classes over the years here in Victoria. Today I'd like to tell you a few stories of how, well, we'll start with how I found out about Jin Shin Jyutsu. Well, as it turned out, my introduction to Jin Shin Jyutsu was kind of unusual. I had a friend who I had got to know quite well, who had moved out of Victoria, and I got a call from her one day asking me if I could come to the hospital in Victoria to help her, and because her sister had suddenly been diagnosed with a very rapid form of cancer, and she was really wanting me to come and just help in any way I could. So I think the reason that she had done that was because at one point I had told her that I would be interested in helping with the dying in some kind of hospice work, perhaps when I'm older. At that time it was 1995, and I was not that much older. I'm much older now. But anyway, I said, of course I'll come. And when I got off the phone, I was like, but what am I going to be able to help her with? Well, anyway, I'll go. At that point I had Reiki level 1, and I thought, well, maybe I'll. So I was getting ready to go, and I was at my office with my husband, and there was a knock on the door, and it was a fellow and a woman who had come up from Sedona looking for a houseboat to be built. Well, our business was houseboat building. Well, at one time it was, but we had gotten out of that, and we were now doing a different type of business, and we were in a different location. And they had managed to find us and track us down, and he was asking if we would build a houseboat for him. And I said, we said, no, we don't do that anymore. Meanwhile, his woman he was traveling with had these beautiful peacock feather beaded earrings that she was wearing. And, Harold, my husband, asked, well, where did you get those gorgeous earrings? She said, oh, I made them myself. And he said, oh, they're beautiful. And she said, would you like to see one? So she took one off and handed it to him. And then he handed it to me, and it was gorgeous. But as soon as it hit my hand, I could feel tingles coming off of it. And so I said to her, what do you do for a living? And she said, I'm a healer, or I'm a Jin Shin Jyutsu practitioner. And I said, wow, Jin Shin Jyutsu, I've never heard of that before. I mean, I've had kind of a background in health. I was a midwife at one point, and I've done a lot of studying of alternative healing. I hadn't heard of that. She said, oh, well, yes. And I said, well, do you think it would help with cancer? And she said, well, I've worked with several people who have had cancer, and if it doesn't go into remission, they will have a much more peaceful passing. So I said, okay, do you know of anybody in Victoria that does this? And she said, no, I'm just a visitor, so I really don't know. And she gave me the number of the school in Arizona, which after she left, I called. And who knows, maybe I even got Terry on the phone because, but they said no. They looked at their list of people and they said, no, there was nobody in Victoria. So long story to be shortened now, I'm heading out to the hospital driving, and I see this couple walking along the street. So I pulled over thinking there's no coincidence here. Maybe she can tell me something that I could do for this lady in the hospital. And so she started to show me something right on the street, which was the main central. She started with the first step of the main central, and she started going through the steps. And about, somewhere down, she saw my eyes glazing over, I guess, and she said, are you going to be able to remember all of this? And I said, well, maybe, And so she said, just a minute. She went, took her guy aside, and they had a conversation. Then she came back. She said, I'll come out to the hospital with you. It'll be my gift to Victoria. So off we went. And what I saw in action in that hospital room was so amazing for me. I just knew I had to learn it. I had to learn this. And she was able, because this woman was only 46 years old and she wasn't ready to die. She was not handling her diagnosis very well. And her sister, my friend, was there giving her Reiki and whatever. I don't know all the things she was trying to do for her, but one of her problems was she couldn't breathe very well. She was on oxygen, but she couldn't breathe well. And she was in a lot of pain. So when, we held her ring finger, she could actually breathe well enough. And when we held her index finger, her pain was reduced. This 46-year-old woman's two sons were there, and the practitioner had them holding her toes. So we were all four of us were able to help this lady actually come to a place of peace. And the practitioner talked to her, and basically helped answer some of her questions. And it was just so beautiful because within 20 minutes, the whole room had just changed into a very peaceful, focused, rhythmic kind of thing. And she showed us how to do the main central for her, which we were doing for her, and the whole thing. So what happened was she had been given 2 weeks to live. She lived another week, and obviously it wasn't that kind of miracle, but the miracle it was that all of her family were able to get there to see her before she went, even though they were spread out all over the world. And they all had a healing as a result because they were able to actually get together as well themselves. And it kind of moved the whole family into a closer bond. But at the same time, for me, it really showed me that just how integrated an experience can be with the help of Jin Shin Jyutsu. So onwards, I took my first class in 2002, which was really amazing. And then from there, gradually, it took me another 10 years to start organizing classes, but it's been a really beautiful experience for me to do that. And I've got a few good stories. One, for example, is early on, I decided to go into health fair and put a booth up in a health fair and do little demo sessions of Jin Shin Jyutsu as a way to introduce it because nobody knew what it was here. And anyway, I had my booth and I had the Touch of Healing book, you know, with the beautiful image on the cover. I had that set up, and I had a little sign, and I had a form where people could fill in, if they're interested in finding out more information, and a sign-up sheet for booking their sessions, for their 20-minute sessions. And so this one guy came up and he's like, Jin Shin Jyutsu? Jin Shin Jyutsu? There's Jin Shin Jyutsu in Victoria? I didn't know that. And so I said, yeah. So he booked a session with me and came. And when he came, I asked him, how did you find out about Jin Shin Jyutsu? Well, that was, excuse me for 1 minute. Water. Oh God, it's only been 11 minutes. Hi, I'm back again. I needed a little water. Sorry. So how he had found out about it is kind of interesting. He had a chiropractor that he went to, who was a friend, and he went to him very regularly. And he had the chiropractor had a bookshelf, and on the bookshelf was The Touch of Healing, along with a bunch of other books. And while he was waiting for his appointment, he got that book down, and he was he thought, this is really neat. So he asked the chiropractor if he could take it home, and he did. And between that appointment and the next one, he started doing the self-helps that were recommended in the book. So when he came for his next appointment, the chiropractor was like, what have you been doing? You've changed, something's changed. What have you been doing for yourself? So he said, oh, well, I've just been using that book that you have on your shelf. And he was like, what book? The Touch of Healing book. Oh, I'd never read that book, he said. So he said, maybe you should come to the house for dinner next week, and we'll show us what you've been doing after dinner. So they did that, and after dinner, they went into the living room, and he had them doing what he was doing for himself. And they had a 5-year-old kid that after dinner would always get hyper and would bounce off the walls, basically, and not want to go to bed and all that. So anyway, while they were doing this Jin Shin Jyutsu self-help, the 5-year-old put herself to bed. And this really impressed the chiropractor, of course, because that had never happened before. So anyway, that story has always been, it makes me smile every time. Then another one was my mother. My mother came to see me for sessions regularly for a number of years. And, she really, it was so nice to be able to do that with her. But at one point, this was when she was about 88, she'd been doing her income tax every year for all of her life, and also had done other people's income taxes for them as just a freebie to help them out. But by the time she got to be 88, that year she was starting to really find it was a drag. And so she was complaining to me on the phone one night about it, or one day, and I said to her, it wasn't like her to be that way. She didn't do a lot of complaining, but this one, she was really complaining. And so I said to her, okay, well, why don't you try this? Go lie down on your bed, put your right hand on the top of your head and your left hand between your eyebrows, put some pillows there, and just hold that for 10 minutes. and then see how you feel afterwards. And I just let it go. If I ask her to hold it for 10, she'll probably do it for 5, right? So anyway, a few days later, when we talked again, I asked her, well, so how did it go with the income tax? Oh, she said it was really great. I was able to concentrate, I could focus on it, and I got it all done in 4 hours. Now, she had been saying when she was in her complaining mode that it was going to take her weeks to get it done. But just doing that little self-help was enough to get her to be able to focus and get it all done in 4 hours. So that was a great little story. And then I have another one about some people that came to see me. Both of them were clients. One was the daughter and her mother, who was in her 80s, were both coming to see me. But the mother was from out on the eastern side of Canada, from Toronto. So she had gone back home. She would come and stay with her daughter for periods, but she was back home, and she wanted to have good-looking feet and be able to walk well for this big wedding that was coming up in the summer. So she decided she was going to get a bunion surgery. Well, at 88, or she wasn't 88, she was 83, I think, but at that age, to get a bunion surgery is probably not that easy. And so her daughter decided to go out there and help her through getting through the recovery time. So anyway, I got a call from them about 3 days after the surgery, and it was that they didn't want her mother Diane didn't want to keep taking the medications for the pain. She thought it was bad for her to carry on taking these pain medications. What could they do for the pain? So I said, oh, well, put your right hand on her left, it was on the left bunion, left foot, right hand on her left 15, and the left hand over the bunion, over the area of the surgery. And just hold it for, as long as you can and see what happens. So anyway, they were very excited because what happened was she did this, and I don't know how long it was for, but all of a sudden they heard a large pop, and her pain was gone, and it never came back. So that's one of those incredible, almost mysterious things that can happen. So yeah, all of a sudden a big large pop, and that was it, no more pain. So and on that sort of same theme, something as simple as holding the big toes. I had a woman come to see me with a little boy who was 4 years old, and he had been having almost constant seizures since he was born. He was born with a genetic defect, and he had had several surgeries as well to his brain because he was producing a certain protein in the brain that was causing this seizure condition. So she carried him all the way up the stairs. I had 3 flights of stairs to come up, no elevator at that location that I was in, and brought him to me several times. And I was able to, basically just holding his big toes seemed to be one of the biggest benefits to him. I mean, they would stop, the seizure would stop immediately with my left hand on his left big toe and my right hand on his right. And so she started doing that immediately as well for him. And she was able to keep his seizures way better control doing that. So she also came for sessions, and when I organized my first class here in Victoria, I was able to get sponsorship for her to come to the 5-day class, and I think that's been one of her best. She's been so grateful for that. because she learned a few other things there that she could do for him. And she's got quite a little routine that she does. And he's now 21 years old. And he's doing very well. So he has hardly any seizures. They're very short in duration. And, you know, he's in great shape. So that was, you know, and he hasn't had to have any other surgeries. So really fortunate. Yeah. And here in Victoria, what we've been doing is I have, there's probably about 15 people, regular people that have been coming to different self-help classes, or I should say study groups, and that we've been doing since COVID. That hasn't been happening. We've done a few Zoom ones, but they're not as much fun for us. So the study groups have been regular. We've been doing those every month, and we've also been doing some hands-on sharing every month. And I'm hoping to have those resume fairly soon. We have also got new members a few that have done classes online since, you know, everything went online for the COVID condition. And so we've got new students that have had their first 5-day class online. And so it's a beautiful little community of people. And then I was also teaching self-help classes here. And those were really going quite well. So it'll all be coming back sometime over the next 6 or so months, I would say. And hopefully next year we'll be having another 5-day class in Victoria. All going well. We'll have to see how things change over with our various restrictions that we've been under. But I'm really happy to have been able to talk with you guys about what, you know, Jin Shin Jyutsu's been like for me in my life. And thanks. That's all. It's over to you, Terry.
Oh, thank you, Mia. That was wonderful. I mean, I think this is the first time on this series we've had more than 2 or 3 stories. And, you know, I was listening. There was certain flows that reoccur, and often they can be some of the more significant flows in lots of situations. Mia mentioned the main central, you know, on several occasions there. And I was particularly listening to a story about fear of doing one's taxes. Who doesn't have that? I mean, who really wants to do their taxes? So, you know, that's a good tip. You know, you can get through some of those blockages by placing your right hand on your head and going down the main central. And those of you that don't know what the main central looks like in totality, there is a copy of it on our website. You just go along and we'll have a look at the website in a minute, and I'll just kind of point you in the right direction. But, you know, lots of little tips there and simple, which is really what I see Jin Shin Jyutsu's accomplishment through Mary Burmeister and Jin Shin Jyutsu is. It's simplicity. You know, it's an innate art. We can hold our toes, you know, to calm down too much energy in the head, our big toes in this particular case. You know, we can relieve pain. I mean, Mia talked about the 15 and 6 of this lady that was going to have operations. Was she having it, or she'd had the operation for the bunion?
She'd had the operation.
She'd had the operation.
She was in recovery time with a lot of pain, and the pain went. Yeah.
So, you know, it's the simplicity. And for those of you that haven't purchased the self-help books, or Mia mentioned The Touch of Healing, they're all available in our store, and the information is up there. You can get the self-help books as e-books. And at the back of self-help book 1, there is these short form holds, which Mia actually alluded to. that you can use in emergency situations, and they're very simple. You just hold toes, like we said, or hold a thing. Yeah. And those kinds. Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
Well, for example, I did when I first found out about Jin Shin Jyutsu there. I got the schedule of classes from Scottsdale, and it had a list of things that were available, like self-help books. So I ordered the self-help books, and we used those. I actually found them to be very helpful for my husband, who had developed a condition, and he had a lot of back problems and whatnot. So we do the supervisor self-help for him. And that was really, really amazing. The tension that would leave his body was quite significant. So we did use the self-help books without having any prior, understanding or knowledge about Jin Shin Jyutsu really at all, other than me seeing that one woman with her helping. But and all I can say is, I think anybody would benefit from getting the books and starting on it.
Yeah, you were breaking up a bit there, Mia, so we couldn't actually hear everything you were saying. But
it was just to say that they're good.
From the honest. Anyway, folks, I think the gist is, the self-help books are very valuable, and those special function flows that are at the back of self-help book 1, self-help book 2, the safety energy lock, self-help book 3, mainly a focus on the fingers and toes. Anyway, without further ado, stay with us, Mia. We'll just have a quick look at the Jin Shin Jyutsu website and see what's going on in the Jin Shin Jyutsu world. Coming up Saturday, October the 2nd at 2 p.m. New York time, Anita Willoughby will be teaching how to harmonize back pain from shoulders to hips. And here's all the highlight cluster. You can register here. You can use PayPal, and you would click there. So that's a key webinar that you might want to clue in on. Organic conversations with Jin Shin Jyutsu instructors Sarah, Maria, and Jill. And these come roughly every 2 weeks, and they're online study groups, and they're presented in English. And you can register today, and with all these classes, you can get replays. And here we are, upcoming and past webinars, all the replays. You click on these links and you can find out how much they are and get a download sent to you. So here on the website, if you go to the top, here is the menu, all the different aspects of what Jin Shin Jyutsu is all about. Practitioners, if you need to find them, the store, if you need to buy things. About Jin Shin, the outreach, which is where you can apply for any grants or anything. And looking at the quick links, the photo gallery, student guidelines, articles, podcasts, testimonials. I think maybe in the articles and podcasts we might find a link to what Jin Shin Jyutsu is and the main central flow. Here it is. Main central flow, which Mia mentioned several times. All right, so go to the quick links, the articles, podcasts, and video. They're helpful. So, without further ado, let's just round everything up. Thank you very much, Mia, from up there in Victoria, British Columbia. Just want to mention, folks, that Mia has been an organizer for many years now, very efficient organizer, and as she said, she has a community, And one good way of spreading the word of Jin Shin Jyutsu is to actually become part of your local community. And you can find out who's doing what by calling the office or going back to the website, and you can look up practitioners and they'll tell you what's going on. Because our main central magazine will no longer be published from the end of the year for all kinds of reasons. So you're probably going to need to use our website a lot more. Another fundamental point that I need to reiterate is Jin Shin Jyutsu is an art of harmonizing energy in the body, and it's not a substitute for medical advice. We're a complement. So when you take on Jin Shin Jyutsu, if your doc should say to you, your therapist, take the following tablets and everything. If you've learned Jin Shin Jyutsu, it's probably wise not to say, "Oh, I don't need them, doc. I do Jin Shin Jyutsu." We don't diagnose, we complement. And if you do mention it, just point them to the website, and all the disclaimers are there. They can read up on and listen to them. If they say to you, well, if I'm giving you this, I wouldn't do that, then, just nod your head, yes, and just to reduce any sort of static that it might create, because in this world, there are guidelines which even we have to follow. But of course, it's an innate art. You get the feeling to hold a finger or a part of your body, then that's perfectly normal. Out of sight, out of mind. That's what I say. But it is not a substitute. Oh, and one last thing. I had been telling you stories that there would no longer be a second Harmonize to Energize. Well, like the weather here, sometimes there's a change. And we're going to stay with the 2. So there will be a Wednesday and there will be a Friday continuing. And hopefully I'll be able to invite Mia to come back and join us for a Friday where she can show us some.
That'd be nice. That'd be nice.
We have another mystery presenter who will be taking the show. And so it is. I like these mysteries, but it's a she. And she will be with us on Friday. So join us at 2:00 New York time for Friday. So thank you again, Mia. Have a good rest.
Thank you, Terry.
And thank you everyone for tuning in and sharing with us.
Thank you.
And
thanks for everyone for watching.
Recording of the replay I will put together within about 24 to 48 hours. So au revoir, everyone. This is cheerio from America and England. There you go, au revoir. There you go, from Canada. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mia.